Okay, so we'll go ahead and begin today's forum. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome. It's good to see you all here. My name is Jeff Peckrell. I'm with the Human Rights Working Group, which we're a team that collaborate to find the excellent content that we present to you on these forums. And we do other projects as well, and I'll mention a couple of those in my introductory remarks today. Our presenter today is Anne Rovere from the church, and I am very excited to hear her presentation because she's going to be telling us about a trip she took, which is a part of a series of, I would call them educational and social justice oriented tours that The Nation magazine has. And I have done one of them so far myself, which is their civil rights tour of the South. And I'm going to be doing another one of their tours in a couple of months. They have one called Native American Voices, which is in the Dakotas and Colorado. And I'm very interested in that. Anne has taken their very newest tour, which is, well, we'll learn all about it very shortly, but she went to West Africa where they explore that part of the horrible slave trade, which we all know about. Other announcements, so I'll just tell you about a couple of other forums that we have coming up. So next Sunday, we're going to have Richard Becker from the Answer Coalition, and he'll be giving us kind of a radical critique on the war in Iran and the Middle East, which I think we'll get a different take on than what we're reading in the mainstream media. So please do come for that. And then on the 29th, we'll have Meg Whitaker Green, our very own esteemed Reverend Emeritus, who will be talking another topic for Women's Month. And she'll be telling us about her personal friend and a very famous and important civil rights attorney, Anne Fagan Ginger. So that will be a great talk. Please come for that in 2 weeks. And then we'll have 2 weeks off. There'll be no forum on either April 5th or on April 12th for different reasons. And then we'll come back in Earth Month, if I can call it that. We'll have a presentation on the 19th of April from Recology, who will be enlightening us about recycling and things related to that. Okay, another announcement I would like to make is, so the Human Rights Working Group has another series that are done after church called Global Conversations. And on the 12th of April, it's on Sunday, 12th of April at 12:30 in this room, there will be one called The Hidden History of Zionism. So another topic related to the crisis in the Middle East. Okay, so with that, I think we'd like to have the Ohlone land. Oh, another announcement is Willard will do the Ohlone land recognition. Thank you, Willard.
Good morning. Again, it's always our tradition to really acknowledge that this location, this place was the ancestral home of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. And we all, by being here, listening to today's lecture, are learning about social justice, historical injustices. And it's really important that we recognize who came before us and the people who are still here and the indigenous people who are stewardship of the land. So please think about that. Now, it's not just about the past. If you want to learn more about environmental stewardship, the Oakland Museum of California has a wonderful exhibit about indigenous people learning to use and practice a controlled burning and the use of creative fire to improve the land. So please check out the Oakland Museum of California and their special exhibit about indigenous people use of fire, environmental stewardship.
All right, thank you, Willard. And without further ado, we'll bring Anne to the podium to tell us about her trip to Africa.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. And this is called West Africa and Slavery, and it's about a 2-week Nation magazine trip I took with 21 people to Senegal, Benin, Togo. Do we have a map? And Ghana. And 3 complicated visas. The purpose was to learn about the origins of the transatlantic slave trade. My interest specifically was to learn about African history and indigenous native culture. My goal was to have a better appreciation of and understanding of Black America. And more recently, I became very interested in learning about slavery in general. So this is a disclaimer. 2 weeks in West Africa is nothing but a glimpse in time. I've read a lot since the trip and rely on books on slavery that I purchased in Ghana. The topic today could easily be a lifetime of study, centuries of study and reflection. So I'm going to talk about definitions of slavery, the institution of slavery, the Euro-American conception of slavery, the vulnerability of African peoples, how captives were obtained, incarceration, indigenous slavery, the effects of colonialism on Africa, and then photographs of my trip. And I would like to begin by stating that the name that we use, Africa, likely comes from the Greek meaning a land free of cold and horror, or Tunisian, a sunny place. The ancient indigenous name is Al-Kubalan, which means the mother of mankind and the Garden of Eden. The origin of our word slave comes from sklavus, from the eastern shore of the Mediterranean, from Bosnia and Croatia, where Venetian merchants sold slaves to the Islamic world. Sakaliba is the medieval Arab word for slave. Slavery was a central feature of life in the Mediterranean world, especially in ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, Imperial Rome, and Greece. The Ottoman Empire slaves came from raids into Central and Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and slave traders from the Barbary coast of North Africa raided the Mediterranean coast and the British Isles. The trade in slaves in the Arab world pre-existed the European-American transatlantic trade and started in 732 AD. And there was a Cairo Declaration of Human Rights that abolished slavery in 1990. So the European slave trade started in 1521 with the export of slaves from Lisbon, Portugal, and ended in the 1800s in various European and South American countries, the USA and the Caribbean. The African slave was a free man or woman, a family, a clan member, a tribe member, and then a captive. The Euro-American conception of slavery was slave is commodity, slave is chattel, slave is inheritable, dependents inherit slave status, slave is property, slave is kinless, marginalized, and outsider. The Oxford Dictionary of Slavery, a person who is forced to work and obey another considered to be their property. The legal definition, a person who is wholly subject to the will of another, has no freedom of action, whose person and services are wholly under the control of another. The Bible definition, debt, slavery, war captive, household slaves. And the Webster definition is the state of a person who is forced, usually under the threat of violence, to labor for the profit of another. Our West African trip began in Dakar, Senegal, where the Portuguese began their slave trade. It started out kind of nicely. There was a Prince Harry of Portugal who received Africans with pleasure and wanted to convert them to Catholicism. He opposed export, but the king and another prince began the Portuguese transatlantic slave trade after the death of Prince Harry. Spaniards who wanted labor in South America and the Caribbean picked up the trade. Senegal is now a very stable democratic country, mostly Muslim. One of the investigative journalists that we met, whose name was Borso Tall, is a highly published investigative journalist who reports on migration issues from Senegal to Spain, the traumatic effect of deportation of Africans from the USA back to Africa, ocean health. Her language skills and native knowledge is appreciated worldwide. She's published in many, many newspapers in this country and across the world. History shows that African people have consistently been the victims of raids, murder, rape, robbery, kidnapping, enslavement, exploitation, degradation, humiliation, and desecration at the hands of the European world. Not only the European world, but that's another story. One author, Batu Shakur, suggests that Africans were vulnerable to being conquered due to the division caused by tribalism, being mystified by the Europeans, and believing that the white people were going to eat them. And that was what we heard. The Portuguese, British, Dutch, Danish, Swedish, Spanish, and Swiss, through banking and investments, were all perpetrators of the trade. 90% of the captives ended up in Latin America and the Caribbean, 10% to the Spanish colonies, and 7% to our country, to British North America, later the United States. Long before the European invasion, there were kings, queens, empires, chiefs, civilizations that built great structures. Slave trade took the youngest, healthiest, and most virile people. Whole villages and towns were burnt down, and as many people were killed as were caught. The trade eliminated indigenous industries such as beads, cloth, casting, gold, and bronze crafts. How captives were obtained. They were obtained in 4 different ways. Criminals sold by native chiefs as punishment. Free men and women captured in raids by Europeans. Domestic slaves resold, prisoners of war in exchange for weapons and alcohol, etc. And then the Europeans encouraged warfare among the captives and gave them more guns so they could kill each other off or, get more slaves. Once captured, they were made to walk hundreds of miles over weeks and months. One description is that a man's right arm is handcuffed by an iron clamp to a 30-pound log that he can barely lift, which is carried on his head. He walks through trees, bushes, moisture dripping, humidity making it hard to breathe. Thorns penetrating bare feet, leaving ulcers. Every muscle in the body had to be flexed to wade through streams and rivers filled with leeches and snakes to avoid the guard's hippopotamus hide whip. At night, he slept with the armor that he carried. Women were kept in line with ropes or bark. Men had to walk around the tree of forgetfulness 9 times and women 7 times. The tree of forgetfulness is a psychological tool to forget home, tribal identity, families before being shipped. Rebels were buried in mass graves, and dysentery, malaria, smallpox decimated their numbers. Incarceration. Elmina Castle that we visited in Accra, Ghana, was originally a storage facility for gold. The castle was the final stop before the voyage. The storerooms became cells. 40 to 50 African men and women were crushed into dark cells with 1 slot of air. There were cells for misbehaving Europeans that were lit and well ventilated and only used for hours. The captives were fed 1 to 2 times a day. Pretty women would come outside the cell to be viewed and selected for sex by the Europeans. The smell of the cells with urine, feces, vomit, menstrual blood was sickeningly toxic. The captives were of different cultures and languages. Captives who were defiant and fought for freedom were condemned to death. Women gave birth in the cells and on the ship, sometimes next to a corpse and on the ship's manacle to another. Grievance and ill treatment resulted in instances of revolt and rebellion. 5 recorded over 400 years. 1 slave killed his master. 1 disrupted caravan trade. 3 female Elmina Castle slaves burned down graveries. 12 slaves at Cape Coast Castle murdered an owner. Indigenous slavery, a mixed record. In pre-colonial Ghana, there were 5 social categories: kings, captains, governors, and magistrates, businessmen and traders, common people, and slaves. Treatment of slaves depended on the owner and family. There were rules and norms. Slaves were part of the family. They were given food, shelter, and clothing, treated with kindness. The owner needed to be accessible to the slaves. Slaves had the right to marry, have independent incomes, amass wealth, and buy a slave of their own. Another version read that slaves never lost and were always reminded of their lowest status, and some were brutally treated. Running away was another response to mistreatment. The effects of colonialism on West Africa today: profound economic underdevelopment, arbitrary borders causing conflict and political instability due to ignoring ethnic, tribal, linguistic lines. French is the languages. French is the language of Senegal, Benin, and Togo. No, maybe not Togo. I'm not sure about that. Senegal and Benin. I think Togo too. English is the language of Ghana. The economies are focused on extracting and exporting raw materials, resulting in African people's inability to afford the products from their land. An example is cacao sent to Germany or the United States for chocolate bars, and the Africans are unable to afford anything. I think I'm ready for the slides. Oh, so this is the part of West Africa that we were in. And it's very close in some ways to the Mediterranean, so that that's why some of the Mediterranean countries went down and got into the Euro-American slave trade. So, first slide. Okay, this is a photo of sheep near fishing in Dakar, Senegal, and the second slide, wait a second, let me do this. Okay, this is a mural depicting the connection that the people feel with Palestine. Third slide. This is Ile de Gorée, which is a World Heritage Site. This was one of the first places that was used for exporting. It was the house of slaves. I'm going to show you the next slide. This is a cell. At the Ile de Gorée, it is a dark cell with just a slit for breathing and seeing. There's no sense of the outside, the air. There's no daylight, and there are at least 40 to a cell. And from here, they went to Brazil, Cuba, and Mexico. And that's another slide, right? And this, oh God, this is an ad probably by Dutch. That I found in the Ile de Gorée. Prime, healthy, Negroes. Anyway, this is what happened. This is the way that this trade was advertised. The next slide. This is the door of no return, and we'll see it. Many, many famous people. Go to the next slide. This is where the captives left to go on the ships. And it's called the Door of No Return. And a lot of people have visited that. President Obama, many people in Africa. I mean, it's just a very famous horror of our world today. Next slide. This is Kalidou Kassé, who is a Senegalese artist, this is the door of return, the door of hope. And this is the blue represents hope and freedom and the ocean, gifts of fish to the Senegalese to enrich Dakar. Yellow is the gold that it signifies rebirth, a new day and growth. And brown is the soil of the people, rooted the soil of the people. And there is in here a key. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to show you more of Senegal, of Kalidou Kassé a little bit later. Yeah, there's an actual metal key in that. Okay, I'm sorry, Usman. I'm, what? Oh, you do? Oh, wow. Okay, whoa. Okay, the art of Africa. Usman Sow was born in the colonial times in 1935, died in 2016. So he was born and lived before independence, and he trained as a physical therapist in France. And his sculptures, which we'll now go to, he's called the Auguste Rodin of Senegal, of Africa, I think. He was the first African who showed in Paris and is part of the Beaux-Arts. And his sculptures, so he was born during the colonial times, and so his sculptures are several feet tall, forcing viewers to reckon with the humanity of the strength and struggle and resilience of the marginalized people in all of Africa. So some of these, and also Haiti. This is of an African family emerging from the soil into freedom and returning from the earth to home. This is a Maasai herdsman, a warrior, where they mix cow's blood and milk, and it's a sacred drink of strength and cultural identity. And this is probably from Kenya or somewhere in East Africa. Next slide. This is scarification, patterned scars that show identity, lineage, social status, beauty, coming of life, courage, spiritual protection, role, and heritage. And this is not, I'm not quite sure if it's done in West Africa or not, but it's definitely done in Africa. Next slide. This is Toussaint Louverture, born in Haiti. So his parents, I'm not sure what part of Africa they came from, but he was a Haitian general and the leader of the Haitian Revolution. He fought with the Spanish, he fought Napoleon Bonaparte, and he is known as the father of Haiti. These are immense statues. They're just overwhelmingly beautiful and exact. The next slide. This is him again. It's really beautiful, really, really beautiful, amazing. It's an amazing display of African beauty. Okay, the next slide. And this is a man hiding a child, and I don't know whether it's a reference to the Holocaust. Wait a second, is that correct or not? I think he lived through the Holocaust, yes. Or exactly, where this is happening. But again, it's just really beautiful. Okay, now this is Kalidou Kassé, who is a current Senegalese artist. And this is the color and movement of a circle, which indicates that we all have to be rowing together at the same time in life. And this is another painting by him that actually I bought. It's called The Gift, and I bought it for the color, the dresses, the bowls, and I love just the fact that that so many of the people in West Africa are carrying things on their heads, and it's so nice. I mean, it's just, I think that their bodies are aligned in a way that I wish I could have done when I was a child. They start at the age of 6 or so, maybe even earlier than that, carrying water to their families. And this is the African Renaissance monument. It's a bronze sculpture of 170 feet tall, and It's an African family emerging triumphantly from the earth into a new light of freedom, growth, and continental unity. So this really represents all of Africa. That's in Benin. This is, sorry, the Dahomey Kingdom, which this is the Amazon. These are Amazon warriors. The Dahomey Kingdom this was in Benin, worked with the Portuguese to capture slaves. And the Amazons were, the Dahomey Kingdom was a highly militarized, centralized monarchy, and with its economy built on slavery and conquering other coastal cities. The Amazons were an elite female army serving as bodyguards, frontline fighters, and we'll see a statue to them in the next slide. So this is a 98-foot tall statue of a warrior with a rifle and a sword gazing into victory, and with courage, empowerment for Benin women today. Next slide. This is Alex. Alex was our guide in Benin and also in Togo. And it's kind of amazing. He speaks Yoruba, Fon, Minna, French, English, and Russian. He studied in Russia, in Moscow, and also in Switzerland. And he was exceptional, actually. He was really exceptional. And then the next slide. This is the Kapasi Sacred Vodun Forest. So this is Benin, and this is Vodun, which is the main religion. And this is the dwelling place of spirits and deities with a deep connection with nature, who mediate between people and the spirits. This is a totem. The belief centers around governing spirits, the living dead, and the power of nature. The goal is to seek calmness in the face of adversity, keep people in harmony with their ancestors and with nature. There are food offerings, water offerings every time you go into a place like this, you offer something and you pray before you go in. And okay, let me see. These are some of the statues that I think will speak for themselves. And I think this one is the priest, is the wise man. And people go to these sacred forests for mediation, for help with family conflicts. And yeah, they're used a lot. And this is the main, I have to flip over a second. We're going to the Python temple right now. And this is the priest of the Python temple. Pythons, will go on to the next slide, Jeff. Okay, this is Maria Mana, who was on the trip. The pythons are deities. They're royal pythons. They're male serpents that are not feared but revered. So we all held, not all of us, some of us held them, and we can just go on to the next slide. This is Jen. I just want to notice the care, the love that most people had for these pythons, and then we go to me, and that's. I was not in love with a python. I was really, oh my God. Anyway, so they're these are not venomous snakes, and some of them escape and they're returned. They're very protected by the people in the community. Um, so they're deities. They're intermediaries between people and the deities. And here they are together. 60 royal snakes in an indoor pit. So, so in the 13th century, the ball python saved a woman from capture and was a sacred, a sacred token. And it was good for job and health problems, healing. Again, an intermediary between the human and the spiritual world for seeking blessings and protection. They were not venomous. Okay. Oh God, this is what happened. Branding, showing ownership, control, humiliation to avoid runaways for pricing and social control. And yeah, this is what happened. Okay. And this is punishment. A heavy iron spiked collar to prevent escape, humiliate, terrorize, causing neck injuries and exhaustion. This is a Voodoo market where there are skulls, heads, shrines of dead animals, endangered species of birds, feathers, that are used to as sacrifice for spells, potions, healing, and protection. You can flip over here. I think she's holding a toad. I'm not sure. Next slide. Yeah, um, this is a little hard for me. And this is a ball and chain that was found in, I think this was in Elmina Castle. I'm not sure. Recovered from, from somewhere. Next slide. And this is Gonvier, and this is a lake in Benin where 20,000 people escaped to avoid the Dahomey, and they lived there. And it's really very beautiful. I didn't make it there, so these were slides that were given to me. Okay, this is a fuel truck accident that happened in Ghana, and this was it kept us away for hours, actually, until they were able to get it out safely, and they did. They did get it out safely. So, and this is actually this very, very beautiful in the market. Some of the women carrying their children. Next slide. I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm not sure. Yeah, she was really nice. She was a very beautiful person. Okay. And this is wait a second, where am I here? This no, I'm kind of a little bit lost myself here. I think this is Kente. This is these are people who are making cloth. I think if you go on, Jeff, it's the next one. Yeah, you can see it's very beautiful fabric, and women do not do it because of pregnancy. Um, and it's very complicated, very beautiful. This is Ghanaian textile, um, cotton in narrow geometric designs with symbolic colors. Men weave, not women, due to the loom pushing the stomach. And it's a complicated foot and hand coordination. This is the horror of capture. Um, I mean, this is just horrible, horrible, horrible. How am I doing on time? Okay, and this is for George Floyd and for other people, a recognition of what's happening on another continent. The River Pra. Um, so this is where a stop on the forced march to Elmina. They're given a ritual bath in the river, then buttered to look healthy, and then sold. This is, okay, so these are people traveling. These people traveled hundreds of miles from various places in West Africa, in the areas that we went to. And I know this was very upsetting. Could you go on, please? Next slide. Next slide. Oh, this was a man who was at the border, and he looked very fierce, but he was very nice. I liked, I had a nice talk with him. Okay, next slide. This is Elmina. I think it's Elmina, right? Elmina Castle. This was built, it's a UNESCO World Site, built in 1482. It was built, I think, by the Portuguese and the Dutch and the British. Thousands of enslaved people were crammed here for months, for weeks and months, starved, diseased. Despair claimed countless lives before the door of no return. So this is scraping on the walls of the cell with that indicate the despair and the horror of the people. It's just it's horrible. This is Ghana. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's self-explanatory. It's this might be one of the places where they went before they were put on the ships to go to the Caribbean or to the United States, America. This is all Elmina. Next slide. Okay. This was a wonderful event that we had, and I don't know if we have the slide here. I'm not sure what we do with this, but this was in Ghana. in Accra, and this was a show by the local people. Could you go on, Jeff? I'm going to skip that. Oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. We that's on a horse. That was nice. Can I go on? This is a market in Ghana, um, and this was in Accra. Next slide. Oh my heavens. This is, I think, this Kwame Nkrumah. Um, this is his resting place, prime minister, um, first prime minister. Um, and this is Dubois, um, who was a writer and activist, teacher, pacifist. Next slide. Oh, this was in the this was just a little girl in the market where they sold different oh, I don't know, potions and stuff like that. Next slide. Yeah, and this another little girl. You know, Jeff, do we have the um okay. We hmm. Yeah, I'm going to try it. Okay. Okay, wait a second. Let me see. I think I've hold on a second. PS 22, lift every voice and sing. Do you have the choir, Jeff?
Facing the rising sun, I want to jump to me.
PS 22. New York, I guess. I mean, I don't know, it's just very touching. And this is I've left the words at various places there, um, the words to this. Jeff, are you disappearing? By any chance? Oh, okay. Okay. I guess, yeah. If anybody's interested, I have a very, very beautiful video that I'll show separately. Okay.
By the way, and we have the words to this song that was just played briefly are very beautiful. Did you want to read those or just send them out to people as something to read later?
I gave them.
Okay,
They're-
people have it already. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really a nice way to end it, Anne.
Okay.
Great presentation, by the way. I really enjoyed that, and I hope everybody did. Um,
Thanks.
yeah. So we do have some good questions already, and I bet people have a few more. Uh, Someone asked, were there any people of African descent on your trip? Americans, I should say, of
Yes.
African descent, and
Yes.
what were their impressions of, and what their reactions to what they experienced?
Yes. I think there were 6 or 7 people. One of our leaders was of African descent. Um, their impressions, I think it was just all very touching. It really was. I mean, the history, the experience of being there, of meeting people. We had a lot of different people that spoke about current Africa and just Africa today. And so, yeah, people, there were 3 from Poughkeepsie, New York, one of our leaders from Los Angeles, and then an attorney. I can't remember where he's from. Yeah, definitely.
The attorney from Long Beach who was the same one I had on the civil rights tour, I bet.
Oh,
I think
really?
so. Yeah. He's a historian too. He's really great. Not to promote these tours too much, but the nation has a great series of tours, of which this is one, and they have several others as well. Okay. Here's another question for you, Anne. Someone who grew up in Pakistan said, growing up in Pakistan and studying the British curriculum, I was never taught the full scale of colonial history. I learned yesterday that an estimated 100 million people from the undivided India lost their lives to colonialism. Wow. In your opinion, what do you think we can or should have learned from the history of colonialism globally? The slave trade being a manifestation of colonialism, among others.
I I have very little to say that's intelligent or wise about this. I really do. I just do. It's something I can't really answer.
If I could opine for a second, I think it's besides the mass death that it's resulted in all these countries, there's just been a terrible legacy of oppression that is hard for these cultures to, throw off, I think. Okay.
Very poor. I mean, the poverty is really still there, and it's very sad. It's very sad. But there's also a beauty, just an incredible beauty and wisdom, I think, among so many people that live there. And I just
Truly, it really
yes.
came through in your slides. The beauty of the culture was really coming through. Um, did you have an opportunity to interact with citizens of today? If so, what languages were spoken and what opinions do they have about Americans?
So during that accident, where there was an oil spill, a gasoline spill, we spent a lot of time with some of the people, and it was a nice interchange, and I learned from her that what did I learn? Wait a second. I'm having to go back, and it's where in the crevices of my brain. What did she do? And it's lost. Basically, please read the question again.
Sure, sure. In your interactions with citizens of those countries, what languages did they speak? I spoke to you in English, I would guess, but do you know what their native languages were? And then, like, did they express any opinions about Americans?
No. They spoke English, French, and I mainly spoke with the people on the tour. There wasn't a lot of time to interact with some of the residents of the different places. Um, yeah, it was a very tight tour. There was not a lot of time to really interact easily with people. Um, in a very easy way. Um, I, I'm not quite sure how to answer it besides that. I mean, everybody was kind. Some people really wanted some more interaction, and I met a one. I met a man on the boat right in the beginning on the boat to the island off of Senegal, and he um, he had tried to go to Europe. And we kind of exchanged information, and I had him speak with the guide, with the one guide that we met. Um, we had a very nice opportunity to meet with women who were sewing items, actually very beautiful items, and that was an opportunity to meet with children and with them, and they had a lunch. This was in Ghana. Um, the interactions generally, I think, were very nice. I found a little note from somebody. I think he wanted more help from me. And but there wasn't a lot of opportunity, I think, to really speak with people apart from the tour.
Did you learn anything about the educational systems in these countries? Were those kids that you showed us a few great pictures of children? Do you know if they can go to school and until what grade and things like that?
Ghana, yes, they can, and I don't know about some of the other places. I'm not sure. Um, I don't know. We spent a lot of time in the beginning in Senegal, and then we kind of breezed through a couple of countries, Benin and Togo, and then went on to Ghana. So the most time we spent in Senegal and in Ghana. Um,
Sure. Do you know if any of George Washington's slaves came from, well, they came from Africa for sure, but from these countries?
I
Did
don't
you learn
know.
anything about which, you gave us some statistics about the percentage that went to the Caribbean versus North America. And did you mention Brazil as well? I'm not sure, but yeah.
South America. Oh, definitely Brazil.
Hmm.
Definitely Brazil. Yeah.
Okay. One more question.
And then many of the Caribbean islands. Yeah.
Thank you. So we're down to the last question, unless folks have other ones. Oh, um, so we have, are any of the sculptures still on exhibit in Paris? I saw some of them once long ago in Paris.
I can't answer that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm answering these very well. But
Well, it's good to know that they exhibited them in Paris as well.
yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely he's in Paris, but I don't know. I mean, I can't say what the current status.
How do Africans feel about the cooperation of some Africans with European slave merchants? Like, for example, you spoke about I believe it was the Dahomey Kingdom. They were kind of making money on this. Is that how I understood your explanation of it? They sort of helped the slave traders, didn't they?
Definitely. You know, I'm not sure I can really answer that question. The current status is I think, recognition of all of this, of the slave trade and the brutality of it, and just trying to survive as, in independent nations today. They really, they were really decimated, I think, and there so much of what we saw is very poor and very dangerous, actually, in terms of mosquitoes and all kinds of things like that can cause diseases. And so I don't know if I can answer any more than that.
No, that's great.
Yeah. So any other questions?
Okay.
No?
Okay, then, thank you so much.
Okay.
And
I don't think I did them.
just we'll just close with a couple of announcements about upcoming forums. Okay, so next Sunday we'll have Richard Becker from the Answer Coalition coming to talk to us about the wars that are going on in the Middle East, kind of a different perspective than you're likely to hear reading the newspaper. And the weekend after that, on Sunday after that, the 29th, Whitaker Green, excuse me, will be talking from the podium here about, for Women's History Month, about a very important and special human rights attorney, Anne Fagan Ginger. Is that her name? Yes. So that'll be great on the 29th. And then we'll have 2 Sundays off. And then we'll come back in mid-April with topics relating to the environment and climate change. I want to especially recognize and express my gratitude to Melvin, who is the person that puts on this fabulous breakfast that we have every Sunday. Melvin's a quiet guy, but he is actually like a really important part of the team that puts on the forum. He comes up with a lot of great ideas for speakers, and I really appreciate him on that level as well. Yeah, so thank you for everyone for coming today, and we hope to see you back next Sunday.